only you might see it. Yeah, never say die. Gotta go.
Hello everybody and welcome back to more Yu-Gi-Oh! Dynasty Series deck profiles. It's me, Cooper, and we're going to be getting into the Chump. It's time for Chumley to take the stage with his Outback deck. So, Chumley's Outback deck has a bunch of interesting monsters. You get the interesting Dez monsters, Dez Koala, Dez Wombat, Dez Kangaroo, all those interesting beast monsters. It's completely a beast-based deck, and honestly, if I had to look at it, I think that this guy has some, some furry friends. So we're going to go ahead and get into what his best cards could be. Honestly, I would say the rarest cards in his deck are the Wild Nature's Release, a card that literally buffs any beast or beast warrior monster by their defense points, and then, they die at the end of the turn. But it's still really amazing to get all of your defense points as attack points. Also, his Ayers Rock Sunrise for sure would be his other rare card. The reason I would pick this one is because this card, what it does is it basically revives one beast monster. Think of it like a Monster Reborn, but it actually does one better. All face-up monsters your opponent controls actually lose 200 attack for every beast, plant, or winged beast in your graveyard. And all Chumley has to offer are beast monsters. So, the more beasts that are in your graveyard, the better Ayers Rock Sunrise does. So this is a pretty effective monster. Yeah, this is a pretty effective spell card that he wrote for himself. It was really interesting in the show when he did that. So this is what, Chumley's all about. He's got a bunch of monsters, a bunch of beast monsters like that. So I'm thinking we should get into Chumley's stats. And Chumley's attack stat is a little bit hard to talk about, because even though he's rocking the Master of Oz at 4,200 attack, and the big koala, his dark magician basically, at 2,700 attack, his basic monsters do not do very good in terms of real attack. So Frenzied Panda, meh. It's pretty low. Bazoo the Soul Eater is actually good because it eats the monsters in your graveyard and lets you gain attack points for them, 300 each. You can only go up to 3 though. So that's pretty interesting. Dez Kangaroo is okay in terms of attack. It's not helping him, but it's whatever. Majigiri Panda sadly only gets stronger each time a beast monster on the field is destroyed, so it has to survive to get stronger. Dez Wombat, whatever. It's 16. That's not bad at all. It's a solid beater. Dez Koala, no, it's more about defense. Gyakogiri Panda looks like it's more about defense, but for every monster on your opponent's side of the field, it gains 500 attack, which is really interesting. And Nimble Mamanga is more of a tactical card. It's not about the D. About the attack. If it wasn't for his biggest monsters being some of the strongest cards in the game, his basic monsters, other than Gyakogiri's potential and Bazoo's potential, would actually be dragging him down quite a bit. But most of his monsters, average-wise, or get around to, say, 1,400 if you knock out all the bigs and the smalls. But then you got the potentials of Bazoo and Gyakogiri, so I gotta give him some points for that. Wild Nature's Release is guaranteed to help. You know what? Just because I have respect for the Chump, this is totally a biased one, like they all are, I'm going to give Chumley a 4-bar rating. Now, normally I would have given somebody like this a 3-bar rating, but he's going to get an average rating simply because of his boss monsters being way above the average. If Dark Magician was the average, Big Koala goes 200 above that, and Master of Oz is way above anybody's monster. There are very few people in this series that can overpower this. Hell, even a character we haven't seen yet has a boss monster of 4,000, and this card can beat it. So that is really crazy. Getting into Chumley's defense stat, that's where things get a little more interesting, because Big Koala at 2,000 is fine. These monsters are meh. Dez Kangaroo is really good, above the average in fact. This guy's meh. This guy's bad. This guy's amazing. Dez Koala's rocking 1,800, not to mention its nice flip effect. 1,600 is about the average. That's pretty freaking good. I gotta give it to him. And even though Nimble Mamanga doesn't really do good in defense, it does heal you, so that's kind of nice. And Master of Oz is amazing at 37, obviously. So overall, really, really mixed again in terms of defenses. But I gotta say, with the 18-17 16, that's pretty freaking solid. This is all average or above average. And Big Koala and Master Evolves kind of mess up with the average as well. Nimble Manga, this guy, and this guy right here, they kind of mess it up. And these guys are kind of in the middle. So I'm going to have to go average again. I'm going to give the Chump, it might be a little more than he deserves, but I'm going to give the Chump 4 bars on this, on this defense stat. That's not bad at all. It's definitely usable. You could stay in defense mode for a little bit until your opponent gets a tribute or a fusion monster out, since GX seems to be a lot about fusion. Moving on to the speed stat. That's where the Chump gets kind of interesting, because Chumley does have a lot of speed cards. Looking at this, it's like, where are his speed cards? I don't see any. Oh, wait. Look at that. Nimble Mamanga's there. It's a gift from me, but still, triple freaking nimble. That means he could special summon, and heal. That's really amazing. His card that he drew, the Ayers Rock Sunrise, created by Industrial Illusions, thanks to Pegasus, that is a special summon, and it's a solid one that only benefits him, so that's amazing. Silent Doom, that's a special summon. That's really amazing. The Beast Soul Swap, technically a special summon, even if you're just bringing back the same monster or monster of the same level. That's a special summon. Polymerization, Fusion is technically a special summon, so there you go. This guy does have special summons, and it's actually more than the average in my opinion. So looking at this, seeing as almost all of these special summons are from the graveyard or are at least a graveyard effect, I am going to have to dock him on that. But I still think that this is a very fast deck. You will always be able to pull out some monsters, thanks to Beast Soul, thanks to Ayers Rock. That'll make it easier to summon Big Koala. When Big Koala dies, it's easy to get back with Silent Doom or Ayers Rock again. Honestly, I'm going to give this deck a fast speed. Chumley, despite how you look, you're very fast. I'm going to give you a 6-bar speed. No joke. And I think he deserves it. I actually think he earned that 6 bars with Nimble Mamanga, Silent Doom, the Beast Soul, the freaking Ayers Rock, and a little bit of fusion from Polymerization. And if he ever gets that fusion, the duel's over. Especially if he's got Wild Nature's Release. So, hell, if he draws 2 of these, Jesus Christ. So that's going to be it for the speed stat. Honestly, I got to give it to Chum. He's pretty good. Now we got to get into the skill stat. Now, for those of you that understand, skill stat is burn, other win conditions, stall, anything like that. Nimble Mamanga is definitely a stall card, not only because it's a floater, but because it heals you by 1,000, so that's actually pretty good at stalling and recovering your life points in the duel. Des Wombat is an anti-skill card, so it stops your opponent from using skill cards, like skill burn cards on you, so that's actually interesting. It probably should, and you know what, it will affect the skill stat for being anti-skill. Des Koala is an actual pretty good burn card because its flip effect is pretty solid at 400 burn for every card in their hand. If this guy faces anybody that likes to draw cards, which I know someone that exists in this series that likes to draw cards, this thing would be pretty freaking dangerous. Other than that, though, I'm not seeing too much burn and stall. There's no win condition card here, no Destiny board, no Exodia, nothing like that. But anti-burn, burn, piercing damage. I forgot there's also piercing damage. That does count. That's a way of different type of victory because it's not burn, but it technically should be. Stall with Nimble Mamanga. I gotta give it to him. This is actually a pretty skillful deck. There's actually a lot of cards in here. 3 anti-skill, 3 burn, 3 piercing, 3 stall. That's pretty freaking effective. I gotta hand it to him. This deck deserves 5 bars in skill. Compared to everyone else this series, there's not that many skilled people this series. The Chump actually has a lot of options. If somebody runs a burn deck, the Chump completely can counter them. The Chump can burn them back. The Chump can pierce them. There's actually some options here, and he can stall when he needs to. That's literally like almost a third, no, more than a third of his deck is skill-based, so that's actually really good. Yeah, I'm going to give it to him. 5 bars. 5 bars in skill. The Chump's got it going on. Now, when it comes to the brick stat, that's when we need to talk. Because the brick stat is a little weird. Triple Big Koala is a brick. But that's the only tribute monster in his deck. He's got floaters, which are anti-brick. He's got Ayers Rock Sunrise, which revives stuff. So as long as, if anything hits the graveyard, this will just revive it for free. It's basically a Monster Reborn, and he's got 3. And Monster Reborn. But we can ignore Monster Reborn. He's got Silent Doom, which is only for normal monsters. So technically, I can consider these bricky, since he only has 4 normal monsters. Wild Nature's Release, since everything in his deck is a beast, it's not a brick unless he draws 2 of these at the same time. And even then, that's actually really good to have 2 at the same time. You could really do some damage to your opponent like that. No, I'm not going to consider these bricky. The Big March of the Animals, it's a buffing card as well. It's not going to be considered bricky. Beast Soul Swap, every monster in his deck is a beast, so this card could be used for all of them. And Destruction Punch is only good on Des Kangaroo. Des Kangaroo is useless, actually, so not Des Kangaroo. It's actually only good on Des Koala and Gyakko Gire. Those are the only 2 I could see beating an opponent trying to just check out what they are. So I could see this as a brick as well. Destruction Punch can be considered a brick. Overall, I'm going to say the brick stat on Chumley, despite having all of these, because of all the special summons, the floaters, the high defenses keeping him in the game, I'm going to say that his brick stat is only 7. That's not bad at all. He's got 7 bars, rarely bricks. I would rarely brick if I use this deck, and I have tested this deck, and I do rarely brick, so yeah. Chumley is going to get a rarely bricks at 7 bars. And honestly, looking at this deck, if we had to get into Chumley's potential, he's got a bunch of revival cards. Literally a bunch of revival cards. He's got power increasing cards. He's got offensive cards. He's got defensive cards. He's got defensive traps. He's got offensive traps. He's got literally everything he needs and one of the strongest cards in the game. His boss monster, Master of Oz, is pretty much unbeatable in this series. So if you happen to draw a Big Koala or a Des Kangaroo, or even if they die, you can bring them back whenever you want. I gotta say it, Chumley is really, really strong in this series. Honestly, I gotta give it to the man. I think he is a solid 3-star competitor in our tournament. He can definitely win the tournament. He's above average. I think his only real weakness here is, even though he has a bunch of revival cards, what he's bringing back will most likely not be very good, and 2 of those revival cards are basically dead because he needs to draw Big Koala. So, he needs to get Big Koala to the grave, and the only way to do that, since there's no discard cards here, is to summon it, or your opponent runs a discard deck. So at the end of the day, I would say 3 potential is really good. It's exactly what he deserves. He's earned this. He can win the tournament. Chumley is a competitor when it comes to the Dynasty Series tournament, the subscriber Dynasty Series tournament. So that's going to be it. I think Chumley's a pretty effective duelist, and I hope you all are excited to see him in the tournament. If you would like to use Chumley, please copy down this deck, copy this deck in, put it in your Yu-Gi-Oh! Mega. If you're part of my Discord, you need to be if you want to be part of the series. Go ahead and test this deck with other people on Discord. I think it's a fun one to play. In fact, I've tested this one a lot because I just like playing it. So, see you all then. Bye-bye.